afternoon, one and all. We are pleased to be able to welcome you all. Today marks the 14th webinar conducted by the Institution of Engineers India, Singit Students Chapter, Civil Division, on the topic Prospects of a Graduate Engineer. I would like to welcome our dignitaries, faculty members, and all participants to the webinar. One of the most common anxieties of recent graduates or soon-to-be graduates is stress of job market. No matter what field a graduate majored in, finding a job can be challenging. This 1-hour talk may help you to solve this problem in future. It's my privilege to introduce our resource person, Dr. Balu E. George, to the gathering. Currently, he is the Assistant Professor of MA College of Engineering and also glad to inform you that he was the Assistant Professor of St. Kitts College of Engineering in the year 2012-13. He earned his undergraduate as well as master's from MG University. He also completed his PhD in Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He published numerous papers in reputed international and national journals. He is very active in technical sections and talks. On behalf of entire team of IEI and participants, I welcome you, sir, to the gathering.
Thank you, Miss Jesti, if I am pronouncing the right way. Now, let me share my screen with you. All right. I hope this is visible to you, and I hope you're able to hear me. I hope I'm audible to you. Well, first of all, thank you for the generous introduction. And the topic that I'd like to share with you is the prospects after engineering graduation. Now, I understand that this lecture is part of a series of lectures that you've already had, and I believe almost everything was quite informative and interesting. And so about this topic, every opinion that I share here is personal, and you can take it if you like, and you can trash it if you don't like. It's up to you. And hold on for a second. Let me try to switch on the camera. All right. All right, so the prospects after engineering graduation. Now, it's nonetheless a general topic because the invited lectures that we have, usually the expectation of a speaker would be like this. We have a very enthusiastic and energetic audience, and but what really happens, the reality could probably be like this, right? Especially given the fact that the time that we take for the lecture is now 3:30 p.m. and you've all had your lunch, and it's quite likely that you may have a sleepy feeling, and especially in the situation that we are in, you can expect this as well. So I'm quite used to these kind of expressions, but my anticipatory bail is that if I go over 1 hour duration, you can just cut through the talk and stop me by. That's no ego issues there. And I hope I can finish within 1 hour, and I hope I won't spill over 4:30 p.m. Now, again, earlier we didn't have such an option. Now, since we are all meeting in Google Meet, this is the case, right? When you have Google Meet with video, you would probably look like the figure that you see to the left side. And when you have the Google Meet with the audio, you could probably be like the picture that you see to the right side. Some of the recent talks that I was fortunate to deliver includes, most of these are, of course, something related to civil engineering, because I'm a graduate civil engineer and my specialization is foundation engineering. So these are some of the talks which I was fortunate to deliver. But for various reasons, I don't think this is relevant now, because St. Kitts College already have a very strong bench of civil engineering teachers, so there's no point in me talking about civil engineering. So I kind of thought I'll not delve into the details of such technical talks. In this present day, I'm not going into rocket science business. I thought I'll just keep it light, especially given the fact that this is an afternoon session. So about the prospects, we'll start with some of the flaws of our educational system, at least the ones that I've felt as a negative. You know, in short, we'll start with blaming, because we all love blaming, right? We all love blaming others, and we try to feed the satisfaction that we get from blaming others. So I'll start with blaming the present educational structure, the system. Now, one thing I felt is wrong about the system is that it's more of a memorizing, right? If you're good in memorizing, you can score well in your exams. That's one thing which I found quite disturbing. Second thing is that a lack of vocational training. Even after 4 years of graduation, you're not actually trained well in the subject that you're supposed to do after your graduation. You lack very well training. I mean, you could be good in textbook, you could be good in writing exams, you must have scored well, you may have an 8+ CGPA, but we lack the vocational training. In the sense, we don't get the pulse of the industry. That is one thing which I felt could be disturbing. Another flaw which I found worth mentioning is that anyone good in taking exams can climb up the ladder. Even for your class, let's say you have 60 in strength for civil or mechanical, the top students, the ones that we mark top, are the ones that are good in taking exams. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they have fair minds, right? They may have a talent to take the exam, and that is what counts here in our educational system. So that is where we have what is called as a Bloom's taxonomy. It's something that the teachers are familiar, but it includes, taxonomy is nothing but a classification. It includes a set of values on which we evaluate the students. Let's start with understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating, etc. But the bottom of two things, they are included in the high school level. And what is expected from the college level is to apply, analyze, evaluate, and create, which means if you are new to a problem, you should be able to apply your knowledge there. You should analyze the situation, you should evaluate, and to a certain extent, you should create your own solutions to the particular problem. But the memorizing comes to the bottom two tiles there, right? At the high school level. We don't have to memorize everything because we have, at this point of time, we have Google and the YouTube, right? You can get everything in the click of a mouse from the Google and the YouTube, so you don't have to memorize everything. What actually we need to concentrate is on the application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. At least that's what I felt is important in a college level. Now, another term is about employability. Though my topic is about the prospects of graduation, I mean, an engineering graduate, the employability is a very important term that comes into picture, because even after 4 years of graduation, we're not quite sure if we are employable. A mechanical engineering graduate with an 8.5 CGPA may not actually be employable in the mechanical industry. So that is a very serious issue. Those who are hiring you may not find you quite apt for the job for the silly reason that you're not employable. That is where internship comes into picture. Now, this is a term which is quite popular nowadays. Internship means that you go to the site, if it's a civil engineer or a design office, or if it's an electrical or a mechanical engineer, you go to the corresponding offices or workplaces and try to see if you can spend there for at least 3 or 4 weeks. Now the whole essence of internship is to get the feel of the industry. So you know something that you've learned from your textbooks, and you can mix it with the demands of the industry. So once you visit the industry and come back and learn the subject, you'll have a totally different outlook altogether. So you can approach the subject further subsequently with a modified outlook rather than mugging about theories. So a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer or an electrical engineer or perhaps a computer science engineer, once he or she has worked in an industry for 3 or 4 weeks at least during her graduation, that would help her a lot to gain the knowledge, especially in the subjects that she's about to study later. because that gives you a sense of the demands of the industry, to get the feel of the industry, to understand the demands, to get familiarized with the applications. So this is a very important thing that comes into picture when you're talking about employability. Now, COVID pandemic has given us a very large spectrum of opportunities. It's actually a demerit for our economy, but still, I was trying to look at the positive sides of Corona, because earlier sources of education pre-Corona was mostly limited to the brick and mortar classes that we have. For instance, a student going to St. Kitts College of Engineering would sit there and attend the lectures taken by your distinguished teachers, and that was mostly your source for education. And the syllabus was mostly streamlined as well. You have 8 semester in which at least 40 subjects could be stuffed in. So your learning was mostly limited to your syllabus. But that's when Corona came in, and you try to seek more opportunities and sources for education. You were forced to do that, right? You were forced to go online, and online learning comes into picture there. So the courses proliferated. I actually learned a newspaper heading a few weeks back, where a student took around 125 courses during these 6 or 7 months, online courses. So the post-Corona era would give its weightage to online learning. So you have a wide variety of options to choose from. They may be certificate courses, they may not be certificate courses. Any courses that you're interested to learn, there is an option for learning on an online platform. So don't limit your learning. Textbook materials also, they are also available online. So LibGen is an example of a website where you can get almost every textbooks that you can muster for your engineering graduation. LibGen is a website, just an example. Or you can get most of them from the Google. Now, next thing is about blending academics, industry or practice, and research. Again, earlier the case was mostly concentrated to academics. We didn't give weightage to practice and research, but this term is quite important, blending academics, practical, and research. You must be familiar with this picture. I'm not sure if you remember this. It's something about the 6 blind men and the elephant, right? You may have gone through this, the story. The story is quite simple. 6 blind men, blindfolded, met with an elephant, and each of these men have their own interpretations of the structure. So one of them went to catch the tail of the elephant, and he's saying that it's a rope, and another one got the structure of the elephant, and he said it's a ball at the trunk of the elephant. He said it's a ball, and someone got the ear, and he said it's a fan. So when you're blindfolded, your interpretation may not be quite true, right? That was a storyline. So this is how limited knowledge leads us to believe what is not true. So that's where academics should be blended with practice and research, which means you shouldn't limit your knowledge to whatever you get from the textbooks. There's always an opportunity to go out to the field, to experience the demands of the industry, and to research on your own. Now, being a civil engineer, most of the examples that I may probably quote here would be biased. Excuse me for that, because the examples that pops up in my mind is mostly related to civil engineering. So this is an example, just a picture here from Google. So if you show this picture to an academician or a practicing engineer and a research scholar, each of them would give you 3 different interpretations. An academician, if he's asked to design this column, he would probably go to a textbook, get reference from the textbook, go to different pages and give us a solution. Whereas a practicing civil engineer would give a different solution. He's already experienced, so he must have a first-hand knowledge of how the bars should be. So he'll give a different knowledge. And a researching engineer would delve deeper into the subject and try to see if all the bars are useful or not. He might probably be interested to cut a few bars and add his suggestions. So 3 of these people would give you 3 different opinions. That's where blending comes into picture. So if you're an academician or a teacher or a practicing engineer or a researcher, it's always good to have your spectrum widened to accommodate all three practices. Now, for graduate civil engineers and mechanical engineers and every branches, the research is quite important. It's taking momentum now. Every academic institution, especially St. Kitts being an autonomous institution, would probably give weightage to research because our syllabus is almost saturated with the findings of others. They are all established, but we are facing with new challenges. To address the new challenges, we need new solutions. To have new solutions, we need to have research. Now, when you talk about research, Einstein is not the only thing that should come to your mind. Research is not about these big equations. Research is common people do have a feeling that research is something about big equations, Einstein, and all those rocket science stuff, but it's actually not. Research can be quite simple as a safety pin, I would say. You know, the safety pin is a very simple innovation, right? It's a part of a research. Someone met with a challenge and his solution was a safety pin. It's quite simple, a very simple innovation. That's also research, right? You're finding something new to address your challenge. So it's about original thinking, out-of-box thoughts, catering to the demands of the industry or anything that you're part of. So original thinking, out-of-box thoughts, and catering to demands all are included in research. And it's about coming up with economical solution, which is quite simple to practice. So research is not everything about big equations and Einstein and rocket science and everything. It can also be as simple as a safety pin. That is the point that I was trying to convey here. Now, that's where we have a term called jugaad. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term jugaad. Jugaad is about original thinking. I'll give you a picture to understand the flavor of what jugaad is. You see a motorcycle there, and that motorcycle is not serving the purpose of a motorcycle. It's something related to pumping water into the field, into the paddy field. It's a jugaad because a farmer came up with such a solution to have water pumped in. So it's a frugal innovation is what we call as jugaad. Frugal means very simple. So you're innovating something very simple, but it serves the purpose. So that's jugaad. Again, we are actually famous for jugaad. This is a very recent picture after post-corona. A teacher is trying to deliver the online lecture. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much of a setup to have a professional thing delivered. So she had this mobile hung over such a very frugal thing, and she's delivering the lecture. So this is also jugaad, right? She came up with a very simple solution to deliver the lecture. Again, it's a very simple solution. So what I was trying to say is that students, we're all students. We need to come up with solutions that are very simple and it serves a purpose, rather than mugging up the equations and by having the textbooks. So try new methods and ideas. That we switched from the mobile phone, the common mobile phone, to smartphone. That is a new method. That's a very new, innovative method. And the smartphone that we all use now have been with us for quite a long time, right? We can't imagine at this present point a life without a smartphone. Even I am taking the hotspot from my smartphone to have this streamed online. After this class, I would probably use it for a bank transaction. And meanwhile, I might get an email on my smartphone. So these are all new ideas. These are all ideas which were new at the point of time, right? So we need to come up with new ideas. One such idea being a numerical analysis. Now, I totally understand that students present for this talk are not entirely final years, but still, in the final year of civil and mechanical engineering, you would probably stumble upon a word called finite element analysis. So it's a numerical analysis. Numerical analysis integration is kind of a numerical analysis. That's a new method. Just like that, let me not go detailed into the numerical analysis, but still for you to get a flavor, numerical analysis just means that you're devising some mathematical equations to arrive at solutions. So numerical analysis is a new method and a new idea. So mechanical engineers, when you are in the industry, you might use numerical analysis to solve problems related to the turbine wheel that is shown to the slide. mechanical engineers would be interested in that. The stresses coming over a bridge, civil engineers would be interested to solve such problems. Rather than going for deep equations and modeling in the lab, numerical analysis is something that you can employ in a laptop. So mechanical engineers, civil engineers, and automobile engineers, they're all familiar. They should be all familiar with the numerical analysis. This is just a new method and idea that creeps into our educational system. So our syllabus has already been modified to accommodate for these kind of analysis. Earlier, at least 10 or 15 years back, we didn't have numerical analysis in our syllabus. Now we do have that, at least as an elective or an honors. So the whole idea is to get the mechanism. You cannot actually build a car or an automobile and actually test it. It might not be economical. So what you do is you model it on a computer system, analyze the car, the automobile, or perhaps a bridge for the points of maximum stresses, the maximum deformation, etc. And it helps us to understand the mechanism, right? You can play around with different parameters and arrive at solutions. We may not have the luxury of building 100 automobiles and trying to see where the maximum deformation or the load would be. So what we do is we take a more simple analysis using a computer program, and you can augment the spectrum of investigation, right? So that's a use of a numerical analysis. I was just actually giving you a few points which you would probably be familiar with at least in 2 or 3 years. So again, this would give you economical solutions, numerical analysis, especially in research. Now, flexibility to choose a subject. The syllabus that you set in for a university, the syllabus that you students are going through, were not as flexible as it used to be now. Now, I'll give you 2 clippings of Hindu newspaper, not Hindu, I guess it's Times of India. Right, this is a clipping which came a few months back, June 2019. Kerala Technological University to offer BTech honors and BTech minors, which means you're allowing flexible options for the students, right? Students can choose from honors and minor, which was not the case a few years back. Likewise, this is another news clipping. Madras IIT announces flexibility in courses. So a student in 4th semester or 5th semester can actually upgrade to a large number of other programs. For instance, if you're a mechanical engineering graduate or at least a 3rd-year student, if you find a program or a subject interesting in, let's say, electrical engineering, you can actually choose that, right? Your degree would show that you are a mechanical engineer, but if you're interested to learn a subject in electrical engineering down the 5th semester, you can actually go to the electrical department, attend the class delivered by the teacher, and get a certificate for that. So that's a flexibility that you get. So these kind of flexibilities have actually creeped into our system, and it's quite a good trend, I would say. So there's a flexibility for the choice. Now, this is where we have the big question. Number 1, this question is for every engineering graduate student who's listening to me. Why did you actually choose this stream? Now, had it been an interactive section, it would have been nicer, but still in the online platform, I totally agree to that. It's not possible. So I'll give you the answer in due course of time. Now, this is actually a very big question, right? Why did you choose this stream? Electrical engineers or engineering graduates, 2nd or 3rd-year students, why did you choose the stream? Likewise, civil engineers, why did you choose the stream? Is it completely on your own interest is the real question. There's a picture here. I'm sure you would relate to this. At least the Malayali students, I'm sure almost everyone here are Malayali. So this is a very famous movie there, Godfather. And Godfather, Innocent is asking Jagdish, which subject are you learning, right? Roughly translated as, right? That's a very rude question, but still that's a very relevant question, I would say, because we need to have a clarity of why we have chosen the subject. Is it under parental pressure or some other thing? Is it under the compulsion of your friends or lover or perhaps any other one? So that's a very big question, right? Why did you actually choose a stream? More importantly, there's another question. Why did you actually learn what you have learned? I'm sure you have this doubt even when you are 70 years old. Why did I learn a plus b the whole square is a square plus b square plus 2ab? Did I apply it somewhere? So that's a very big question, right? So what we learn and what we have learned need to be focused. Of course, there should be applications of a plus b the whole square somewhere down the line, but at least I'm 32 now. I haven't used it, but that doesn't mean that it's useless. You might probably use it in some form or the other somewhere, but still, I'm hopeful to use that. But still, this is a very important question, right? Why did you learn that? That's a very big question number 2. Now, that is where the choice of your career comes into picture. And we have now moved to the real topic of the talk. Why did you, the choice of a career. It's crucial because as a student, you may have started your KG session at 3 or 4, and you would probably end your education by 21 if you stop with engineering graduation. So that's a 15-year student life. But the career that you have would be around 30 plus years, right? So it's 50 against 30 plus years. So the seriousness with which you choose a career is quite important because it has a weightage, right? Anyone who is entering the job by 25, if he is in government service, would retire by 60 now. So that's 35 plus years in service. So the choice of a career is crucial because that's where you've spent a chunk of your lifetime working. So that's quite crucial. And again, this is a picture which gives you the idea. If you are interested in catering and if you're forced to go as a barber or a saloon manager, you'll not be interested to do your work, right? You'll be caught up in the wrong job. Likewise, this. If you are interested to do a mechanical drilling work and if you end up being a dentist, again, you'll be frustrated, right? So the choice of your career is quite crucial. Now, I'll give you a few options. These are the options that we at least have here, but let me take a cautionary bail here. It's not limited to these options listed in the slides. I've just taken a few from the mosaic of options that we have. Number 1, after your 4 years of graduate life, undergrad life, you can choose a job. So job is option number 1. Second is a higher studies. You can go for higher studies. Third is you can directly go for an entrepreneurship, right? You can start a company on your own. That's a good option. Another thing is exam preparation. You can take a year or 2 as a break and prepare for exams that you feel you're interested in. That's another option. And you can follow some passions that you prefer. That's another option. But again, before you make the choice, you need to be clear about the skill set demanded by each job, because or else you will end up caught in the wrong job. Just like the previous slide where we saw a dental care unit with a drilling unit attached to his hand, you don't want to end up in such a situation, right? So before you choose your career, it's always good to have a preliminary knowledge about the demands of that job, right? I'll take a very simple example here. We know what this is, right? Coconut climbing. So coconut climber, he need to have a set of skills which would help him attain his level of satisfaction in his career. Things which I find are important for a coconut climber is listed here. He need to have a good body balance, right? He need to have a good eyesight. He need to judge whether the coconut that he see on top is ripe already or not. So that's one skill set that he should always have. Another thing is a good physical stamina, right? Coconut climber should have a good physical stamina. This is perhaps a very silly example, but still, I hope you get the idea. Skill set demanded by each job. Now, ability to count and add, right? He need once a day is off, once he finishes his job, he need to add the number of coconuts he has climbed, and he should get his fair share of salary based on that. So that's another skill set that he need to have. But see, we can't actually expect Mukesh Ambani to have these skill sets, right? Mukesh Ambani does have another set of skill set, which makes him a very good businessman. But the coconut climber have to have all these skills. So there's no comparison here. Be good in what you are. That was the idea. So before you go and choose a job or a career, it's always good to have a preliminary idea of what the skill set demanded by the job is. Now, the job, again, can be a core job. It can, for instance, be in a design office. It can be in a site or a field work. It can be government job. And it can be non-core jobs as well. Non-core jobs means that if you are a mechanical engineer and your job is not something related to what you have learned, it's a non-core job, right? For instance, banking and finance. You have your mechanical engineering BTech, but you still end up being an employee of State Bank of India. That's fair, that's fine, but still, this is a non-core job, banking and finance. Software, except for computer science and probably to a certain extent electronics, every other branch would find this as non-core because the syllabus that you have studied for 4 years is nowhere related to the demanded syllabus by the software industry. So that's a non-core job. Academics is something that I have not chosen to write either in core or non-core. It's somewhere in between, at least to me. Academics is nothing but teaching, the job that I do. I'm not sure if I can consider that a core job or a non-core job, so it's confusing, so I've placed it in the middle. Now the core job, the design office, again, the examples that I quote could be biased to civil engineer, but still you can get a taste of that. If you're an electrical or a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer, the design office is some place where you actually design a structure or a project, etc. Right? So in a design office, you need to have good ideas. So if you're good in ideas and aesthetics, and if you have an updated knowledge, you are probably good in your design office, etc., etc. So these are a few skill sets which I think are actually would prove you a good design engineer in your design office. Again, the opinions that core job design office certificate, you can go to the site, solve the problems in the site. For a civil engineer, there could be problems. For a mechanical engineer, there could be problems. For an electrical engineer, there could be problems. So you go out to the site and execute the plan given at the design office. So that's a site work. Again, it's a core job because you are applying your engineering judgment at this site. It's a core job. Students might be familiar with this picture. Again, you probably would be members of BTech Trolls. It's a Facebook page. I should admit that I'm not on Facebook, but still some of my friends had shown me this picture. So there's something weird in this picture, right? So if you're not good at site work, you would end up with all these kind of funny situations. So site work is an example of a core job. You need to have endurance. You need to have decision-making power. You need to have practical sense. And you need to have, more importantly, the skill to execute a work under pressure and under limited time. So these are some of the talents and the skill sets demanded for the job of a site engineer. Another one is a government job, right? Still a core job, nonetheless. You get your salary from central government or state government. KSEB is an example for electrical engineers core job, and PWD, central PWD is another example. Kerala PWD is also another example. So the skill sets that is expected from a government job is integrity, but I've added a few question marks there because it's doubtful if that is actually in practice. Integrity is actually one thing that you need to have in a government job because you're accountable. You're playing with the the taxed amount, right? So you need to have integrity. You need to be accountable. You are playing with the public fund. You need to be socially responsible. I'll give you a picture which shows the seriousness of social responsibility there. We know Kerala PWD, right? Public Work Department. So Kerala PWD, these two pictures might probably define Kerala PWD. Again, this is just for a satirical point of view. It's not quite serious. And you identify what's wrong in the picture that's shown to the top side, right? Again, you identify what's wrong in the picture that you see to the bottom side. I'm not quite sure if this is PWD, but for fun fact, I've just taken these two pictures. So you need to have integrity, you need to be accountable, you need to be socially responsible. So since it's an internet source, I have added a ribbon. Fact check need to be required. So I'm not sure if it's from a PWD. Anyone can add a watermark of PWD. So nonetheless, what I was trying to convey is that you need to have integrity, social responsibility when you are in a government job. Now, another job opportunity is a non-core job, right? Banking and finance, right? This. So after your 4 years of engineering education, you go out to the bank, perhaps as a probationary officer PO, or a clerical post, or even to directly as a manager. Again, if you are interested, it's totally okay. But these are some of the skill sets that is expected from a bank employee: sincerity, patience, a good communication skill. You could probably be posted at let's say Assam or maybe Kasaragod. So you need to have a proper communications skill to deal with the daily situations. You need to have concentration, right? You need to have concentration to make sure that the fund that you transfer online or offline is properly executed. So you need to have concentration. You need to have observational skill, right? So these are some of the skill sets which I felt is important in the banking and finance sector. But the problem with the banking and the finance sector is that there's the same question. Why did you learn your engineering graduation? After all these mathematics, integration, chemistry, physics, civil engineering drawing, mechanical engineering drawing, electrical circuits, SSI, everything, you are doing something that's not actually what was required in a banking profession. So again, the same question pops up. Now, non-core job, the second option is a software, right? Wipro, Infosys. Now, when we were engineering graduates in 2009-10, there was a boom from this Wipro and Infosys to have the placements done. Even I was placed in Infosys, but actually I didn't know what C and C programming was all about. So I didn't end up in a job in Infosys because for the simple reason that I didn't have a clue of what software is. So I was not competent enough to enter the job. Nonetheless, these are job, but a job nonetheless. Wipro and Infosys are just a few examples. You can have your own examples quoted. You need to have commitment. You would probably be working in a team, right? So rather than any other job, software engineering job would require a spirit for teamwork, right? A project would be assigned to you in a team. You will be a team member. You need to be good in teamwork. You need to have, again, communication skill is important. Now, apart from the core and the non-core jobs, I have placed academics somewhere in between. Academics is nothing but you end up being a teacher, right? A lecturer, a professor. So academics is also another option. So people who are good in studies need not be actually good teachers. I'm sure the teachers out there would probably agree with the fact that we were not actually very good students. Again, we may not be actually very good teachers, but still, what I was trying to convey is that a good teacher need not be a good student, and a good student need not be a good teacher. So the skill set demanded for a teaching, of course, includes knowledge. It includes a skill to deliver the lecture. It includes empathy. So the student a student who is a part of your classroom, if he finds a problem, we need to have an empathy to try to think from his situation and try to address his problem. So it's good to have empathy as a skill set if you are ending up as a teacher. Communication skill, again, not avoidable, even though you are communicating through an online platform. We don't know the future yet, but still you need to have communication skill. Communication skill is not about English language, it's not about Malayalam language, it's not about Hindi language. It's about trying to convey what you have in a proper and efficient manner so that the student understands what you're talking about. So if you are a graduate engineer trying to be a teacher by profession, the most important thing that you need to have is to make sure that you have the skill to deliver what is known to you, right? If you know something, if you know, for example, if you know how to integrate the area of a triangle using taking a strip and getting the area to be half BH, you need to convey that idea properly to the student so that the student understands the deeper meaning of integration, he understands the concept, etc. So it's not about English language, it's not about Malayalam language, it's not about any other regional language. It's about the way in which you deliver the content to the student. Again, it's always good to be a motivator. So if you are good in lecturing, if you are completely sincere to a subject, you could actually motivate the student to learn the subject on his own, right? He would, as a good teacher, if you make a delta change to the student's interest, he'll actually learn by his own. So that's the role of a motivator, a facilitator, a motivator. Examples. Even I had my fair share of good teachers. So the subjects that I used to learn curiously was the subjects that the teacher delivered very properly. So the teacher actually gives us a impetus to follow the subject. So that's a motivation. Now, next option is to go for higher studies. Higher studies, of course, do have classifications. Core field, one example is MS. Once you are through your BTech graduation, 4 years, you can end up in a Master of Science program, MS by Research program. You can have MTech. You can have integrated PhD. And if you're good in your studies and you've scored 9 CGPA, you can actually apply for an integrated PhD where you get the certificate for a post-graduation and a PhD simultaneously. Probably after 6 years, but nonetheless, that's an integrated PhD. Non-core field higher studies include MBA, Master of Business Administration, Master of Architecture. Example, these are just examples. Now, MS is nothing but a master's program concentrated on research. So first year of your MS, you would be in your classroom studying what is already known to you in your BTech plus a few deeper subjects. So you'll spend 1 year there learning delta change to your knowledge from BTech. And in the second year, you'll start your research. So that's Master of Science by Research. Research means that you go out to the laboratory, depending on which stream that you're in. So if it's a computer graduate engineer, you would probably end up in front of a computer system doing programs. Or if you are a mechanical engineer, you will go up to the mechanical laboratory, do some tests there, identify a problem, etc., etc., come up with a solution. So that's Master of Science by Research. That's one option for you as a higher studies. You need to have commitment. You need to be inquisitive. Inquisitiveness is something that's important for anything that's related to research. You should be curious about the result. You should not ask just why, you should ask why not, right? You should be curious. Patience is very important. Those who have done Masters, MS and PhD would probably agree with me that that's one quality that is expected. Patience is very important. Observation skill, again, is very important. You need to identify what the results that you get from the lab is and try to solve the problems. Observation skills is again important. Second thing is MTech, the very famous MTechs, right? I'm sure at least 60 or 50% of BTech fourth year students would probably go for an MTech, or at least aspire to get admission to an MTech program. MTech is nothing but a specialized, streamlined diving into what you have already learned in your BTech. So BTech, for instance, BTech civil engineer can have an MTech in structures, an MTech in transportation, environmental, geotechnology, etc. These are the subjects that you have studied for just 1 semester. For instance, structural engineering, you have just studied for 3 semesters. and you're actually augmenting your area for 2 years. So you're going much deeper into the subject. That's MTech, right? Mostly is about attending class lectures, except for the fact that in your second year, you'll have to do a project and an internship. But the difference between the MTech and the MS that we have in India is that MTech is time, it's within a time frame, 2 years. So you can make sure that if you're a good student, you'll get the completion certificate after 2 years of MTech program. But MS is by research, right? Research is finding up something that is not known to us. So for the same reason, we don't know when we'll pass out. So it would probably take at least 2.5 years, or maybe stretch out to 3 years to complete your MS by research. Both these degrees are post-graduations, but MTech you can complete within 2 years. MS, you're not quite sure if you'll be able to complete that in 2 years. I'm not talking this in a disparaging way, but still I was just pointing out the possibility of the course getting delayed. It's not actually delay, you're trying to find something new. So of course it takes a toll on the duration. Integrated PhD is again an example. If you are inquisitive in nature, and if you have good observational skill, and if you have good writing skill, you can actually go for an integrated PhD, but that's a very competitive field. You have to have a higher CGPA than the average. And there are various scholarships awarded by the central government. Prime Minister's scholarship is an example. You will get 70,000 rupees per month for PM scholarship if you are very good in your studies. So depending on the CGPA and the selection process, you can actually have an integrated PhD. Again, integrated PhD, you are doing PhD nonetheless. So you actually try to spend your time in the lab and try to play around with the instruments there, identify a problem, and come up with solutions. Cautionary note is that it can take at least 5 years, but it's worth the wait, I would say. So integrated PhD is an option. Determination is a skill set that is required. Inquisitiveness, patience, of course, what comes into MS gets reflected here as well. You need to have patience, observation skill, and in addition, you need to have a writing skill, because what you have found out from your research put across to the textbooks or journals or literatures, etc. So you need to be good in your writing skills, technical writing to be specific, not story writing, technical writing. So that's one option. Non-core field includes, like I said, MBA, MArch. MBA is something related to business administration. So if you are good in administration, administering in businesses, you can actually have BTech MBA and work as an executive. Of course, this is limited to civil engineering graduates. Architecture, MArch is another option, which is not core field in the strict sense, but it's a non-core field. Architecture's masters. Right, you can design buildings using MArch program once you have completed. Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, again, it can be in the core field. It can be a design office. You can start your own design office. Electrical design office is an example. Construction firm is an example for us civil engineers, right? Material production is an example for mechanical engineers, etc., etc. So non-core field includes anything that you're good at. You can make actually cake. You can bake your own cake and sell. That's entrepreneurship. That's not related to civil engineering or mechanical engineering, but that's something that you're good at, right? So you can have that as an option as well. Who knows? You might be good in embroidery. You might be good in selling stuff, etc., etc. So anything that you're good at, it's always welcome. Like I said, core field, design office, civil, mechanical, and electrical engineers can start their own office. Construction firms, electrical startups, software startups, etc. Right? So that takes a guts, of course. It can't be said as a quite safe job, but still, if you're interested in managing the business and coming up with new solutions, you can actually start an entrepreneurship, right? In Kerala, we have the startup missions by the government encouraging the software startups. You can have it in your InfoPark campus. I have a few of my friends who, after completing their BTech graduation, went and worked abroad for 2 years and came up to the InfoPark, and they actually started a few companies, and it's all in good terms now. So this is an option. You can actually go for software startups, construction firm if you are talking about civil engineering, etc. Material production is another example. We have these big names, right? V-Guard is an example. MRF is an example. They're all into material production. Metcon, the TMT boss, is an example. Metcon actually was founded by an alumna of MA College. So I thought I'll have a personal interest in having that picture shown there. V-Guard is an example of material production. These are, of course, the successful ones. There are unsuccessful ones, of course. There are out in the field, but still, I was trying to quote a few examples here. Non-core field, like I said, anything that you are good at. We have an option now for app development, right? For introducing your product through app, through Facebook, through YouTube vlogs, video logs, and all those opportunities are already live here, which was not the case at least a generation back. For people who are now 50 or 60, they actually didn't have these options to market their products. But we, or at least you in your generation, you have these options out there. It's a very strong choice there. You have these marketing options through Facebook and WhatsApp and different applications and YouTube videos. You can actually do that. So it's good to have your startups. Another thing is exam preparation. Again, I'm sure a fair share of your strength will end up preparing for exams. It can be in the core field, Kerala Public Service Commission, PSC. It can be GATE, Graduate Aptitude Civil Engineering. And GATE can be related to civil engineering and mechanical or electrical or any field if you are trying to prepare for MTech admission. Or GATE actually applies to a few other central government jobs as well. ONGC is an example of central government job which demands GATE scholarship. And there are a few other companies which demands GATE score. IES, Indian Engineering Service, these are all core fields, right, in exam preparation. Non-core fields, of course, include the civil service, the ACME being IAS, right, IAS, IAPS, IFS. These are all civil service examinations. You can actually spend a few years on that. It's worth the wait, I would say. And NET and JRF. If you're interested in ending up in a JRF research fellow, JRF junior research fellow, you can qualify the NET and try to switch your job to a research area. IELTS, you can actually prefer for IELTS if you're interested to go abroad and seek a job or a course there. IELTS, you can prefer for that. TOEFL, again, something related to the language, but still you can spend 6 or 7 months preparing for IELTS and TOEFL. PSC. We have listed PSC in the core field and the non-core field. Secretary Assistant is a non-core field PSC examinations. Public Work Department is a core field PSC examination. So I thought I would add PSC to both these fields, core and non-core. IBPS, Banking Professional Service. These days, the consortium of banking professionals have come up with common exams, IBPS, right? You would be familiar with that IBPS. So IBPS is an option if you are trying to seek a job in your bank markets. And some passions. So this is on a lighter sense. If you're good in journalism, it's not non-core, it's not core, but that is something that you're passionate in. So if you're good in journalism and if you're interested in that, there is an option to go for that, right? You have acquired your 4-year graduate program degree certificate on your own, so you can follow your passions. Journalism is an option. I have a friend who is working with Manorama, who was a civil engineer from Amal Jyoti. He completed his graduation with actually flying colors. I think he had first class, but still he wanted journalism to be the profession. And he's a part of Manorama now. He's interviewing these celebrities and politicians. So there's an option there. Journalism is an option. Literary works. Of course, people in India rarely do earn money from the royalty that they publish on the books. But still, if you're passionate in that, you can keep this, and this is an option. You can work somewhere and try to see if you can write some books and have them published. You will get the royalty, etc. More importantly, rather than royalty, you will get a satisfaction of what you have done, a mental pleasure of what you have done. So that's an option. Artistic works. Of course, these are not jobs that are strictly in the sense of a career, but I thought I'd add these to the slides as well. If you're good in artistic works, you can actually go for wall painting, graffiti works. In foreign countries, these are actually jobs. You'll get paid for these stuff, but unfortunately in India we don't have the option to get paid for all these unless you are a serious artist. So artistic job is an example. Film field. We all love film field, right? These two engineers are already in the field. Vineet Srinivasan and Basil Joseph. These are all, I thought I'd add these examples because they have their engineering graduate degree. So once you have completed your graduation, on a lighter note, you can try your luck in film field as well. Just keeping as a source there. Public speaking. If you are good in public speaking, you can actually you again, you could be familiar with TED Talks, right? This is a picture taken from Google about TED Talk. If you have some crazy ideas, you can come up with them, and you have an option to deliver these public speaking lectures. Social works. You can work with NGOs if you think you are socially responsible and it's good to have your passion followed. This is an option. Social work is an option. Now I'll complete in 1 or 2 minutes. We are summing up here. For at least 20 slides, we have been discussing the different options of available for you to go into after you graduate. But again, here comes the question: what decides the choice? Right from the beginning of this presentation, we had discussed how did you end up being an engineering student, right? There was a big question posed. Question number one, the big question was that why did you choose your stream? So the choice of your stream has led you to have your studies in St. Kitts College of Engineering, perhaps in electrical or electronics, but that is for 4 years. After that comes your big choice, right? So that need to be taken care seriously. Now the choice, what usually decides that is that parental pressure, right? Parents would give you instructions that, my dear kid, we have spent so much on you, you should get a job in the Gulf, or you should get a job in the US, or you should try hard and get PSC cracked. So that's parental pressure. Of course, they do have their own reasons. We would probably understand that once we are parents. But still, this is what usually decides. One, parental pressure. Number one, peer pressure, right? Peer pressure is something that, again, affects your choice to a certain extent. Unless you're very strong in your decision. Peer pressure means that your classmates are going for, let's say, master's, MTech, but your interest is something else, but you're forced to go for masters because your friends are going, right? You are afraid of missing out. So that's peer pressure. Again, that's a pressure nonetheless. Parental pressure is another thing. അപ്പുറത്തെ വീട്ടിലെ ജോണിക്കുട്ടിയുടെ മോൻ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് US മാസ്റ്റേഴ്സിന് പോയി, അപ്പം നീയും അങ്ങനെ പോകണം. That's parental pressure. So peer pressure, parental pressure, financial obligation, much more reasonable thing, right? You may have credit bills to pay, so that's financial obligation. Societal pressure, it's in quotes status. Parents would be or in that field. So you need to have passion to work there. And this is a very famous saying. I'll stop with this. The only way to do great work is to love what you do and do what you love. Again, this picture is a snapshot of a book that's available online. I'm not going to market this, but nonetheless, it was written by Devadas Menon, one of our professors at IIT Madras. It says, "Stop sleepwalking through life." If you can take a look at this book, it's available online. You can go through that. It's something related to what we have discussed for a few minutes previously. So it's all about following your passion. So this is potential takeaway from the talk. Your time is limited. You don't have to waste it living someone else's life. I used to have this slide in almost every presentation that's related to BTech graduation, or some talks which are of this theme, not the technical talks, but some talks which are of this theme. I living someone else's life. This is section I'll be happy to address that.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for the interaction. Participants, please unmute your mic and ask if you have any queries to Balu sir.
Oh, I get the message here in the chat box that the audio was very poor. I'm so sorry, but I didn't get anything in the mobile phone. I'm not sure if it was very poor. Why didn't you actually stop me, by the way? You should have
Sir,
stopped me. And yeah.
it was okay.
In the chat box, it says it was very poor. So I'm sorry if it was, but I was totally okay. Okay, that's okay.
Participants, you can post your queries or questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I totally agree to the point that this being not a technical session, this very feeble actually scope for an interaction, but still I'll be happy to address in whatever limited knowledge I have.
Hello, sir.
Hello, ma'am.
I am Anita Joseph from Civil Department. Your presentation was very interesting. Your slides, all your examples, everything was very interesting. So we didn't feel like sleepy at all, as you doubted in the beginning. It is 4:37 now, and we are all online. It was very interesting.
Thank you, ma'am. Good to hear that.